What are we expecting after the bell today? A lot of people have a lot of questions.
A lot of questions, and I don't know if all of those questions are going to be answered. Unfortunately, we're not going to get a lot of information about the Apple Watch. They don't break it out. There are some analyst reports out there suggesting Apple sold 3 million watches in the last quarter. I don't think we're going to get that kind of clarity from Apple. We might get some clues about how the watch is selling. One of the things that we're going to be talking about coming up on Bloomberg West is a new survey out that 97% of people who've actually bought a watch are satisfied with it, which is actually a little bit more positive than some people thought. I mean, I've been wearing my watch. I don't wear it as much as I did initially. I don't feel like it gives me that much value add. It's a little bit slow to tell the time, but it is fun for some things. I think it's really going to be all about the iPhone. This is still the iPhone company. I love this. I love my iPhone 6, and it's really sort of been the gift that keeps on giving for Apple.
It's a gift that keeps on giving, and Apple's so reliant on it. But, Tim, I wonder, because analysts at RBC Capital Markets point out that margin headwinds will be an issue with the Apple Watch. This is really the case with whatever new product Apple introduces. You've got a margin headwind anytime the company rolls out something new, don't you?
Yeah, you got the ramp-up costs and whatnot. Now, Apple's not going to release the unit sales of the Apple Watch, but sharp pencils will be able to maybe perhaps back out some of the new revenue being generated by the watch. They're going to tuck it away in the other category on their statement today, and a lot of people are going to be looking at trying to judge to see just how well the watch did.
Tim, Emily was just implying she has her watch, she wears it, she loves it, but is the honeymoon over for the Apple Watch? Is that what's going on?
I think we're kind of at the normal kind of adoption cycle for a new product. This is kind of essentially a new category. People aren't accustomed to having smartwatches. And if you look at what the functionality is there, they're still developing apps. And so really the next 18 months, some analysts think, is really going to be the time where we're really going to see if it comes into its own. The first few months are the early adopters, the must-have Apple people. This update to the software later this fall will make it more functional. And then after that, we'll start to see new apps that could potentially make it more useful.
All right, well, I have to ask you about China, Emily, because Tim Cook obviously has made a big splash in China, going on a lot of PR tours there, and Apple relies on China for 29% of its sales overall. Certainly, the iPhone 6 was a big hit there, but we saw from IBM's numbers that China is an area of concern as well.
It's definitely an area of concern. I mean, obviously, the massive sell-off in China, particularly in tech. One of the interesting things that is happening in China is that the smartphone market is saturating, but at the same time, the replacement market is actually accelerating. So people there are buying new phones more quickly. So maybe not as many people are buying their first phone, but they're buying their second phone, their third phone more quickly. And what we've been able to tell so far is that the iPhone 6 and the 6 Plus, the bigger screens, have just been a hit with Chinese customers. If you look at last quarter, revenue in China actually went up 70%. It was a big shopping quarter, the Lunar New Year. But it certainly seems that Apple hasn't felt the China pinch. We are going to be looking for clues about that and just how well Apple is continuing to do in China, though, with all of this volatility.
But we did mention, you mentioned at the beginning, it does seem kind of close to the vest, doesn't it? It's kind of tight-lipped. Why?
It's Apple. I mean, they're a secretive company. They do this every quarter.
But we know we go through this every 3-4 months, but again, why? Why is it necessary to be this close to the vest?
I think they're just very conservative. They don't want to put anything out there until they know for sure. They don't want to be talking too much about the watch until they know for sure. And, there's been limited supply. Like, it's actually difficult to buy an Apple Watch still if you want one. So that could be some of the reason that we're not seeing the massive adoption.
Limited supply by design as well.
I've asked this question many times.
Yes,
is it by design or is it not? And, a lot of the analysts on the other side are saying, look, they're trying to produce these things as quickly as possible. They really are.
Well, speaking of conservatism, Tim, I wanted to get your point on this because Apple is notorious for lowballing guidance. It issues these lowball forecasts, conservative forecasts, that it always tops the next quarter. Knowing all this, why are analysts still always behind the ball when it comes to earnings estimates and sales estimates?
Yeah, it traditionally had been the case with Apple. They had been a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more closer to the mark in recent quarters. Yeah, to your point, in the past they have really been very conservative. That, of course, could be one of the things that we'll be looking for this quarter is their guidance for the current quarter. If they are not as aggressive as what the analysts out there are saying for the final 3 months of the fiscal year, that could be bad for the company.